My sister and I woke up simultaneously with two different abilities. One was a system of elimination that could use stamina to eliminate anything, and the other was an accumulation system with storage space. As the older brother, I had always been concerned about my sister's fragile health since childhood, so I chose the stamina-draining elimination system, while she opted for the accumulation system. No one imagined what would happen in a week when the apocalypse would strike with cold cruelty and hordes of zombies would devastate everything around us. I fought desperately to eliminate zombies using my system, becoming a hero in the city. Meanwhile, I kept her in charge of the supply depot in the rear. During a zombie horde attack, I was seriously injured and, in search of supplies to survive, I discovered that my sister had sealed the safe house. She looked at me coldly and asked, "Why can you be the hero and I am trapped in the warehouse?" When I woke up again, she had already decided to choose her own system, which was elimination, and I realized she had also been reborn. I smiled inwardly, aware that the elimination system required a great sacrifice. The system absorbed an immense amount of stamina after use, and although I was physically strong, I became weakened again, as if I had suffered a serious illness. She, a spoiled princess who could barely open a bottle using that ability, would probably spend 3 days in bed after each use. When I opened my eyes, I heard my sister say, "Ethan, I want the red one," and like a scared girl afraid of losing her toy, she quickly headed toward the right elimination system. At the instant she touched the red icon, a look of happiness spread across her face. In this life, it would be my turn to be the hero everyone admires, she thought. Then she looked at me with arrogance and disdain, believing she had one. But I knew the truth. She had chosen the most powerful ability and, in this life, I would be the one ending up begging her. Without a word, I approached the abandoned accumulation system and calmly asked, "Chloe, are you sure you want that one? It looks like a combat ability, very difficult and demanding." Feeling lucky, she boasted with a certain maturity, "Ethan, I thought about it. You've always protected me, so now it's my turn to protect you. I will handle all the fighting and dirty work. That golden symbol is just storage space, perfect for someone meticulous like you. You can take care of the logistics and protect me." Internally, I sneered. She wanted to use me as her tool, just like in the past life, to drain all my valuable energy. I paid no attention and simply reached out to gently touch the golden symbol. A warm golden light enveloped me completely. The connection with the system was successful. My name was registered as Ethan, with the skill Infinite Accumulation Level 1. There were 167 hours and 59 minutes left until the apocalypse. Meanwhile, Chloe, having linked her system, excitedly waved her arms in enthusiasm. The glass ashtray resting on the coffee table disappeared in an instant. Chloe's face suddenly paled. She placed her hand over her chest and moaned, struggling to breathe. But then her expression changed to one of overwhelming joy. "It's real. It's truly real. I have that power." She turned to me, and her eyes stopped reflecting her usual dependency to reveal raw arrogance. "Ethan, I'm a little tired. Bring me water and give me the card that Mom and Dad left. I need to buy some things to prepare." Her tone sounded as if she were giving orders to a servant. Looking at this sister who, in another life, had pushed me into the abyss, I slowly uttered a word, "Out." In that second, the air seemed to freeze. The smile on her face hardened, and for a moment she doubted if she had heard correctly. All my life, I had indulged her every whim. "Ethan, what did you just say? Are you upset because I took the red system? But I do it to protect you. I'm telling you to leave." I stood up and looked down at her. "Besides, this is my house. You have 10 minutes to pack your things and leave." "Are you crazy?" Finally, Chloe stopped pretending. "I've awakened the most powerful ability. Do you know what that means? The apocalypse is coming. Only I can protect you. If you offend me now, I won't help you even when you're in despair." She trusted too much, thinking she would continue kneeling before me as in the past life. I smiled and approached, cornering her against the wall. The most powerful ability. Suddenly, I struck the wall next to her ear with a loud bang. Chloe screamed and ducked, covering her head. Your so-called ability? Does it only make your worn-out clothes disappear? Did you forget that your power only eliminates, not creates? In 7 days, the temperature will drop below 60 degrees. Without food or clothes, even if I could destroy an entire building, they would die from cold and hunger. Chloe's body trembled. Without a doubt, I had underestimated that problem, but I quickly lifted my chin and yelled, "So what? I can do it by force. Anyone who opposes giving me supplies will disappear. As for you, what's the point of keeping a broken warehouse? You will still depend on me. Is that clear? Well, good luck." I was too exhausted to keep wasting words with her. I walked to the door and yanked it open. "Now, leave once and for all, or I'll send security to kick you out. Don't forget we live in a society of laws, and I can call the police for trespassing." Chloe looked at me with a shocked expression on her face, but then quickly accepted. "Very well. Since you were so insensitive, don't blame me if I'm ruthless." Part 3 of 23. When the apocalypse arrives, I will see you begging me with your trash. Ethan, you will regret it. Without saying anything else, he ran into the room and began forcibly stuffing clothes and jewelry into a suitcase. Then he dragged the suitcase outside, furious. Before leaving, he cast me a look full of rancor. "In this life, I will make you die like a dog in front of my eyes." The door closed with a sharp bang. I leaned against it and took a deep breath. First step, relationships permanently severed. Without that ungrateful person willing to betray me at any moment, I can finally act with complete freedom. On January 15th, 2026, at 10 in the morning, I looked at the clock on my phone, just 1 week before the apocalypse. Speaking of preparation, I listed my assets. A house valued at approximately 8 million euros, which I put up for sale with a 20% discount, plus the inheritance we received from our parents, totaling 11 million, intended to build a fortress capable of withstanding temperatures down to -70 degrees Celsius and hordes of zombies. Additionally, I accumulated enough supplies for several lifetimes. However, that amount still seemed insufficient. Therefore, I contacted the bank and mortgaged my company's shares and my current residence. I also called several private lenders and exhausted my limits on online lending platforms and credit cards, like a compulsive gambler. In just one afternoon, I had accumulated 16 million in liquid funds, convinced that it would be enough. As I looked at that endless list of figures in my bank account, I felt no excitement, only a sense of urgency. In reality, the money was just worthless paper. Only supplies could save lives. I drove the unsold SUV directly toward the suburbs, with a clear goal. The old cold chain logistics terminal on the outskirts of the West. A former storage center that was abandoned after its owner embezzled funds and fled. The area was remote and surrounded by open land, easy to defend and hard to attack. In my past life, it had been occupied by a gang and became one of the largest survivor refuges. In this new existence, it would be mine. I found the old man who watched over the place and handed him 20,000 in cash, offering to lease it for half a month to set up a horror escape room. No contract, just handing over the keys. Seeing that bundle of bills, the old man smiled so widely that his dentures nearly fell out, and at that exact moment, he handed me the keys without a word. Once I had them, I closed the main door and entered the vast underground cold storage. Although it had been out of use for 2 years, its location 10 meters below ground level kept the environment cold and damp. It was approximately 3,000 square meters with 8-meter-high ceilings. I mentally scanned the space. The detection was quick. I identified a semi-conditioned area in the basement that met the requirements for a secure base. I activated the space anchor. Once secured, that location would serve as a material transfer station in the real world. From here, external materials could be teleported directly, and supplies could be released from the system into space itself. The operation was successful. With the location secured, I headed to the city's largest agricultural wholesale market to make a bulk purchase. My frantic buying caused a scene throughout the market. A mysterious young man buying in bulk, as if he were stockpiling provisions for the end of the world, even drew the attention of the market officials. But I had already prepared a convincing excuse. I explained that it was an annual provisioning for several remote mountain mines, as those areas were about to be sealed off and all supplies needed to be ready within a few days. In an era where money opens all doors, as long as I had enough funds, any excuse, no matter how absurd, could help me get assistance. As night fell, the first fleet of heavy trucks loaded with provisions arrived at the factory in the abandoned western suburbs. After unloading and the workers leaving, I locked the iron door. The enormous cold storage chamber was filled with supplies piled into formations resembling small mountains. I walked over to the rice pile, which reached 5 meters high, raised my hand, and placed my palm on the bottom sack. Instantly, the 50 tons of rice vanished without a trace. I closed my eyes and entered the system space with my consciousness. In that endless white, the 50 tons floated calmly, maintaining the shape of the original pile. Their time seemed to be frozen. Even after 100 years, that rice would remain as fresh as on the first day. The feeling of having everything in my hands, controlling every piece, was intoxicating. But that was only the beginning. In a cold of -60 degrees without a heat source, that food would freeze into a solid block of ice. I contacted old friends to acquire 10,000 tons of smoke-free coal and diesel, as well as solar panels and generators. With 7 days ahead, I needed not only to accumulate enough food for 10 lives but also to transform that fortress into a climate-controlled facility, capable of withstanding even a nuclear bomb. Just at that moment, my phone vibrated. It was a message from Chloe with a photo of her and her brother Ryan at a luxury French restaurant. Poor brother. After being expelled, are you eating only instant ramen? Ryan and I are celebrating our new life. Part 5 of 23. If you kneel and beg me now, I might consider sharing a piece of bread with you. I looked at the screen with a mockingly smirking face. Eat as much as you can. This will be the last human meal you enjoy. I answered in 2 words, take care of yourself, and then blocked the contact, turning off the phone. From the second floor on the suspended iron walkway, I watched half a dozen workers move like ants inside the steel fortress. The boss, Blake, the most resourceful contractor in the city, approached me with a strained face, anxiously examining the meticulous blueprint in his hands. Spacer-grade aerogel insulation 50 centimeters thick, surrounded by a double layer of 20mm ballistic steel plates, and a NBC filtration system at the only 2 air intakes. Blake wiped his brow, sweaty. Brother, this won't be cheap, he said. The money is already in your account, $5 million up front. I need everything ready in 3 days. If materials are missing, steel from other sites, I'll pay triple the difference. I told him firmly. I looked him in the eyes and added, only one rule. Don't ask why. Don't take photos. Don't post on social media. When you finish, there will be another $2 million in a secret payment. Blake's jaw moved violently. $7 million, which is equivalent to 2 years of your usual earnings. It's done, he assured me. Understood, boss. You're like my father, he replied. Since you're so generous, let me warn you. If I don't deliver in 3 days, you can break my head and use it as a football. Watching Blake's figure walk away, physically fit, I felt nothing. What I was building wasn't just a shelter but a self-sufficient ecosystem to face the end of the world. I headed to the corner of the factory, where a special shipment had just arrived. The enormous wooden crates were being opened, revealing the dark gleam of metal inside. These weren't common materials but high-tension electric fences, generators, and military anti-explosion glass, acquired through private channels. In the early moments of the apocalypse, the scariest thing wasn't the zombies but human nature. When hunger and cold turned people into beasts, simple roll-up doors proved as fragile as paper before crowds. I stored all these construction materials and adjusted their positions according to the blueprint. During the workers' break for lunch, I lightly touched the heavy armored glass, and dozens of tons of material disappeared in an instant. Then, under the precise control of the system, they were perfectly integrated into the positions of the skylight at the top of the factory. When the last construction vehicle left, the enormous, solid iron hatch slowly closed. Standing at the heart of that steel fortress, which was entirely mine, I watched the room piled high with supplies stacked like mountains. But it was not enough. Far from it. I checked my phone balance. less than 500,000 pesos remaining. My purchasing power through legal channels had been exhausted. The zero shopping night was about to begin. At 1 in the morning, at the logistics center of the Free Zone in the Puerto del Este, the city's largest import and export hub, with tens of thousands of containers stacked like building blocks, filled with top-quality products from around the world, I consumed nearly half of the high-value warehouses in the area until a sharp pang in my brain warned me of mental overload. With difficulty, I halted my actions. Just as I was about to leave, a roar of engines shattered the night silence. Several modified black SUVs burst into the port and stopped in front of a hidden warehouse nearby. Their doors opened, and a dozen tattooed thugs quickly emerged. The leader, a bald man, shouted loudly at his subordinates. "Move the goods. Hurry up. Dragon's order." The cargo had to be moved that very night. The crates they were hauling were clearly marked as dangerous. The strategy to activate long-range scanning systems revealed that they contained TNT explosives, detonators, industrial nitric acid, and ammunition. My heart skipped a beat. This was a smuggling point of the Black Shark Guild, the largest local criminal organization. Seeing that TNT, capable of destroying not only zombies but breaking through any fortification, made my mouth water. It was a direct gift at my doorstep. With those explosions, I would have my ultimate card in hand. Since I discovered this, I wouldn't think twice about being polite. Silently, I used the system's property to circle around the back of the warehouse and placed my hand on the thin painted steel wall, ready to act at the right moment. The exact distance was within the range expected by the systems, so they blocked all stored explosives in the depot and collected them entirely. The hitmen transporting the goods inside only saw a flash, and in an instant, the heavy crates they held vanished completely. Suddenly, silence took over the air. More than a dozen band members froze, standing still, hands empty, staring around in shock. "My God, where are the crates? This is madness. Dragon, we have a problem. The cargo has disappeared. Everything is gone." The bald leader immediately approached and looked at the empty warehouse, his face quickly shifting from anger to terror and then into a state of existential crisis. Who did this? Who could have? The sound of music abruptly cut out. The leader pulled out his pistol and waved the weapon desperately in the air, while I had already taken advantage of the chaos to scale the dock fence and disappear into the darkness. The 24-hour countdown had begun. The city, in its last day, remained as bustling as ever, unaware that this would be the final twilight of the old world. The weather station issued a warning of a blue cold wave, predicting a temperature drop of between 10 and 15 degrees the next day. No one paid attention, and most simply thought about putting on an extra layer of long underwear. I didn't go out again, staying inside the fortress of the western suburb, performing final checks. All doors and windows were welded shut, leaving only a main entrance. I turned on my mobile one last time to check social media. Chloe had posted an update an hour earlier, with the message, "Winter is coming. My heart warms. Thanks for the surprise, Ryan. The future is bright." Some people can simply rot with their dirty money, I thought with a smile. I commented, "Enjoy it while you can." Just then, the drizzle outside suddenly stopped. Immediately afterward, a hailstone resembling a ping-pong ball struck the explosion-proof glass with a loud bang. Then came the second and third. Hail fell like bullets. Tornado winds increased in strength and temperatures plummeted rapidly. An emergency alert appeared on my phone screen. Breaking news. Due to a super intense polar vortex, global temperatures will drop 50 degrees over the next 3 hours. All citizens are ordered to return to their homes immediately. This is not a drill. The apocalypse has arrived. In just 10 minutes, the outside world changed radically. The road was covered in thick black ice in record time. Dozens of cars collided, exploding into flames instantly. But before the flames could spread, the extreme cold suppressed them, freezing them into a chilling state. The occupants inside the vehicles desperately tried to open the doors, but they were frozen shut and wouldn't budge. Someone smashed a car window and notably exited, but as soon as they touched the frozen air, they felt their heat escape. Their movements immediately became stiff, and a look of fear was frozen on their face in an ice mask. The indoor thermometer showed less than 30 degrees below zero and continued to fall at a rate of 1 degree per minute. In the safe house, the temperature remained steady at 24 degrees. I took off my jacket, wearing only a thin t-shirt, while holding a perfectly sealed and juicy piece of Wagyu beef in my mouth, feeling comfortable. However, in a luxurious downtown apartment, Chloe was wrapped in her newly acquired cashmere blanket, shaking uncontrollably. The building's heating had failed due to burst pipes, and the indoor temperatures had dropped to -5 degrees, though still not deadly. For pampered Chloe, it was already a nightmare. "Ryan, find a solution. We're gonna freeze," she thought desperately. She pushed Ryan to her side, who was also trembling intensely, covering himself with all his clothes and seeking refuge in his confusion. "Stop complaining. I'm cold too. This weather changed so quickly that we can't control it. Hurry and find some heat packs." "The heat packs are in that box," Chloe said with a trembling hand. They hurriedly searched but found fewer than 10 heat packs, clearly insufficient to last the night. Desperation grew, and then she remembered her brother. Does he have money? She wondered. Maybe he's in some luxury hotel or has heating equipment. "Call him immediately," Chloe begged, clutching onto that hope. Ryan searched for his phone, but when he dialed, he was told the number was turned off. He cursed silently and threw the phone against the sofa. That bastard had the nerve to turn off his mobile, Chloe fumed. "But we must stay calm. Ryan, I think I know where he might be. I saw him at the South Wholesale Market, near an abandoned factory on the outskirts. We think he might be hiding there given the circumstances." The cold outside was extreme, and the snowstorm seemed uncontrollable. Chloe hesitated, but understanding that doing nothing was death, she was convinced to make a decision. If they didn't leave, they would die of cold. The snow wouldn't melt soon, and in a few hours, the apartment's pipes could burst. "We have a car with heating, and if we find your brother with my specialized system on his head, we can capture him easily. Once in our hands, his provisions will be ours." Greed overcame fear. Both dressed in all their clothes and hurriedly went outside, getting into the car. As they started it, they breathed a sigh of relief from the warmth. Heading to the western suburbs, a trickle of confidence shone in Chloe's eyes. "When I see Ethan, I'll make him kneel in the snow and demand an apology for his earlier rudeness." Meanwhile, in the suburbs, a surveillance screen was watching. There, several stray dogs huddled, shivering. Suddenly, one of them convulsed violently, with bloodshot eyes marked by intense red. A heartbreaking scream echoed across the frozen plain, and the mutated dog, driven by savage fury, attacked its companions. Blood splattered the snow and froze in red crystals on the ground. This wasn't a common virus. It was an extreme cold zombie virus. These creatures aren't afraid of cold. The colder it gets, the more aggressive they become. I put down the chopsticks and stood up, finally reaching the control panel. I pressed the red button, ready to activate the next phase. Level 1 alert. Defense mode activated. The high-voltage electric fence of the first line of protection lit up immediately, throwing blue sparks crackling amidst the storm. I raised my glass of wine and toasted to the snowstorm on the surveillance screen. "Welcome to hell, my guests." The storm in the western suburbs had turned into a white catastrophe, with visibility less than 5 meters. A BMW X5, resembling a drunken ship, struggled to crawl along the road, which already had 0.5 meter of snow accumulated. "Why haven't we arrived yet? Didn't you say it was only 20 kilometers? Chloe nestled into the passenger seat, wrapped in 2 down comforters. However, she was still trembling violently from the cold. "Damn it, don't curse." Ryan's hands on the wheel were completely numb, covered in blue and purple frost. The GPS indicated that the factory was just ahead. "Damn it, I can't see the road." A sharp crunch, and suddenly the car sank and came to a complete stop. The chassis was trapped in an internal block of ice on the road. The vehicle was broken down. Ryan, desperate, hit the steering wheel, but his hand struck forcefully against the leather cover hardened by ice, grimacing in pain. "What?" Chloe shouted. "Do you want me to die here, Ryan?" You're useless. Shut up. If you're so capable, you drive. Ryan also exploded, driven by the survival instinct that overcame his pride. Let's get out of here. That dark shadow ahead was surely the factory. We would walk. There was no other option. Staying in the car meant freezing to death. They wrapped themselves tightly in the comforters and, like two clumsy penguins, entered the storm, feeling their lungs freezing. Every breath was a slow torture. Normally, walking 500 meters takes a few minutes, but it took them about half an hour. When they saw that beast of steel, the abandoned factory, in front of them, almost crawling on all fours to the main door, they froze in their tracks. But what they saw left them paralyzed. It wasn't an abandoned factory. It was clearly a fortress of steel. Its red brick walls, previously deteriorated, were completely covered by silver metal sheets. Chloe ran toward the heavy solid steel door, pounding it frantically. Ethan, I know you're in there. Open up, please. I'm freezing. Ethan, it's Chloe. Take me inside. Ethan, it's Ryan. We are family. How can you let us die? Both shouted with all their might, but their voices soon got lost in the howl of the wind. Inside, I was sitting in a large leather armchair, facing a wall of surveillance screens. Within them, two blurry red thermal images pressed against the door like two pathetic insects. Next to me, in a small copper container, a red oil was bubbling, releasing a spicy and incredibly tempting aroma. System, activate the external speakers. I ordered calmly. They activated. The outside speaker emitted a crackling sound, surprising those outside. Then, a lazy, calm voice with a tone of amusement resonated through the storm. Who's there? Don't you know that bothering people in the middle of the night is illegal? Hearing that voice, tears began to flow uncontrollably down Chloe's cheeks. Ethan, it's me, your sister, she begged urgently. Open the door, it's freezing terribly out here and we're freezing to death. Sister, really? My tone remained calm, accompanied by the sound of a sip. Tisk, that duck intestine is a little overcooked. Did you tell me it was you? Outside, Chloe nearly choked, feeling how the extreme cold made her skin prickle. You happily eating inside, and I hear freezing like a dog, and smelling of duck, which instantly made her salivate and caused her stomach to rumble treacherously. Ethan, stop messing around. I know you can hear me. I am Chloe, your only sister. Open the door now. Once inside, I will explain everything that happened before. It was all a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. I put down the chopsticks and took the microphone, looking at that distorted face on the screen. My gaze suddenly turned cold. Telling me to get lost was a misunderstanding? Or was it also a misunderstanding to say you would let me die like a dog in front of you? Music. That was just anger talking. Chloe panicked. Ethan, you're a man. Why are you so petty? I was wrong before. Now I apologize. Sorry. Fine, open that door. But it wasn't an apology, just an order in her mind. As she lowered her head and uttered those 3 words, she believed she must forgive him, as it had always been for 20 years. But the rules had changed. If apologies were enough, then why were all the police here? I snorted with contempt. Why don't you use all your strength? Don't you have an elimination system? Those words hit Chloe like a lightning bolt. Exactly, I have power. Why should I beg? Well, if you don't want to open the door, I'll do it myself. You won't be begging me afterward. A malicious gleam reflected in Chloe's eyes, who took a deep breath, feeling her energy start to flow inside her. She struck the lock with her icy hand. Eliminate. A red light burst from her palm and struck the door forcefully. But the scene she expected, the disappearance of the door, did not happen. The red light collided with an invisible wall, bouncing back immediately, leaving her arm numb and pushing her back into the snow. System warning. Target object density too high and protected by an energy-reinforced space. The current host level, level 1, cannot eliminate objects that require vitality to consume. Chloe was paralyzed, incredulous at that immovable door. My system is the most powerful, she thought. How could it be that I couldn't even open a door? A merciless laugh echoed through the speakers. I forgot to tell you that door cost me 5 million in aerospace-grade alloy, and my system is designed to counter yours. Your elimination cannot destroy my accumulation. Now go away and don't dirty the snow at my entrance. The transmission cut off immediately. Then, suddenly, the bright lights over the door turned on, flooding them with 2 blinding beams that prevented them from opening their eyes. Chloe remained in the snow, feeling the cold penetrating to her bones, contemplating that door that would never open, experiencing for the first time in her life utter despair. Half an hour passed without Chloe and Ryan managing to leave their shelter. Because their car was broken down, they could only curl up in a small wind-protected cave beside the factory fence. What do we do? Chloe thought, feeling her feet falling numb. Her lips had turned black from the cold, and her eyelashes were covered with ice crystals. Ryan was in worse condition. He had to lend her a piece of his clothing, and now his body trembled violently, his eyes beginning to glaze over. Please, don't sleep, don't close your eyes, she repeated inwardly. If they fall asleep, they won't wake up. Suddenly, an intense and delicious aroma seeped down from above, so powerful that it seemed capable of making the soul leave the body. Both struggled to lift their heads. Do you want some? Ethan asked from the terrace of the second floor, holding a bowl of steaming broth. Ethan, just a sip, please, Ryan pleaded urgently. Just a sip of that hot soup. Finally, Ryan gave in and knelt in the snow, desperately begging. I even taught you to play basketball before. For old time's sake, save me. Chloe burst out laughing and calmly took a piece of fatty, freshly cooked meat. She remembered how Ryan had locked her outside before. Are you talking about old times? She thought with a hint of nostalgia. Then she let go of the hand, and the steaming, greasy piece of meat fell onto the dirty snow in front of them. Ryan instinctively lunged to catch it, but Chloe was faster. The snow-covered meat went straight into his mouth, which swallowed it without chewing. That brief moment of warmth made him sigh with satisfaction. Was it delicious? Chloe asked. Yes, very good, he nodded with tears in his eyes. Now that you've eaten, go away once and for all, and music, let them leave. Right at that moment, her security system detected some small beings attracted by the smell. Before they could react, several pairs of bright green eyes appeared in the distance, amidst the snowstorm. Low, threatening howls filled the wind. They were mutant dogs, aggressive zombies. Ryan reacted faster. He grabbed Chloe and tried to run away, but the ice and snow caused them to slip, both of them falling flat on their faces. The first zombie dog leapt toward them, jaws wide open and aiming straight for Ryan's thigh. Help, Ethan! Shouted Ryan, as he desperately kicked. The animal seemed immune to pain. At that moment, a fierce and determined expression appeared on Ryan's face. He grabbed Chloe next to him and forcefully pushed her toward the dog's mouth, while rolling to escape. What are you doing? Asked Chloe, terrified. The creature's jaws were about to bite her neck. In that crucial instant, her survival instinct overcame her fear. Chloe fixed her gaze on the wolf's head rushing toward her. The mental screen displayed a flickering red icon, which roared inside, Eliminate. The head of the Tibetan Mastiff, Music, was completely erased just a centimeter from her face. Only the headless body fell heavily on top of Chloe, nearly crushing her and cutting off her air. Hostile eliminated. Level 1 mutant. Experience gained. 10 points. Resistance exhaustion warning. Chloe felt her strength vanish, her vision blurred, and she nearly fainted. But fortunately, she had survived. The situation was becoming increasingly interesting. I lowered the binoculars, a gleam of amusement dancing in my eyes. Since you don't want to leave, I will show you the way to salvation. Music, my voice resonated again with an almost demonic tone. 200 meters to the east is a security hut, your only chance of survival tonight. With that, the window was fully sealed, leaving only 2 figures shivering in the dark as more green eyes gathered around them. Move toward the hut. Chloe pushed the dog's body away and staggered to her feet, without even looking at Ryan. Remember that push. In the last instant before the zombie dogs reached them, both struggled desperately to reach the dilapidated security hut. It is small, cold, and drafty. They barely manage to block the windows with planks and old newspapers. "Are you okay, Chloe?" asks Ryan, approaching with a flattering smile, trying to take her hand. "I was trying to fend off the dog. Not you," she responds, in a tone that reveals her hidden anger. After that test, her naive facade breaks, revealing her cold and selfish nature. "Don't think I don't know what you have in mind, Ryan. From now on, if you lay a hand on me again, I will make your head disappear just like those dogs." Chloe's threat with a cold glare. Ryan freezes for a moment, with a hint of resentment in his eyes, but quickly hides it. He knows that Chloe now controls that relentless elimination system, and taking him out would be just a matter of a second. He can only endure that reality. Meanwhile, inside the safe house, I have a tablet in my hands. Although the public network is down, my military-grade satellite receiver still picks up global signals. The screen displays news from around the world. An emergency alert for the eastern region. The government has activated the highest emergency protocol. Official shelters across the country are open. Survivors must head to the nearest designated place. In the Eastern District, at the Sports Center, shelter number 7. I look at those coordinates. In my past life, that was the strongest fortification in the early days of chaos. However, due to the overwhelming number of people, supplies ran out quickly and management was chaotic. Less than a month later, the infamous revolt at the cereal farm erupted, with tens of thousands of dead. It seems history hasn't changed much. I close the news and open the control system. The current stock capacity is 32,000 tons. The system is at level 1, and my experience level is 0. To improve, I need to collect 10 level 1 zombie cores. In my previous life, it was only discovered in the 3rd month of the apocalypse that zombie cores and brains could enhance skills. But now I know that that foolish Chloe was too busy killing the dog to save herself, leaving behind the most valuable war trophies in the snow. Those experience points are mine, and I cannot allow them to go to waste. I put on a lightweight combat suit made from nanotemporal material and grab my tactical axe. I decide to go for a walk and harvest my first loot on this first night of a storm with a furious blizzard. I also want to see if those 2 rats are already frozen to death. Dressed in an advanced fully sealed nanothermal combat suit and wielding my tactical axe, I move across the wasteland on the western outskirts. About 50 meters away, a group of 7 zombie dogs surrounds a security hut. I adjust my breathing and suddenly emerge from behind a pile of snow where I had hidden. The first zombie dog yelps near the hut, unaware of my presence before my axe hits its tough, resistant skull. With a dull crack, the weapon breaks its skull, eliminating the first animal of the pack. The experience increases by 5 points. The alarm triggered by my action immediately alerts the other 6 dogs. El Alpha, a colossal Tibetan Mastiff, quickly turns his head, and his ghostly green eyes lock onto me. With a spring propelled by his hind legs, his enormous, tank-like body rushes toward me. When he's half a meter away, I point my left hand at the ground just beneath him. At that moment, a 2-meter diameter ice section, along with the frozen earth, vanishes in the blink of an eye. The ground disintegrates beneath the mastiff, causing him to plummet. I counter mercilessly. Jumping into the crater, I drive my axe into his vulnerable neck with a brutal and precise blow. The grotesque head of the dog rolls away, thus eliminating another elite mutant dog. The experience grants me 20 points. From the fallen bodies, I pick up a first-tier energy core. A sense of power courses through my body. I crouch down, feeling a slight disgust, and rummage through the mastiff's head. Soon, I extract a crystal the size of a fingernail, which emits a faint red glow. It is the most valuable currency of this apocalyptic era, the core representing the essence of zombie energy and the key to human evolution. The other 5 dogs trapped above bark frantically but dare not descend into the crater. I look at them with a cruel smile. No need to hurry. Each will be my experience points. With a thought, I extract a modified nail gun from my personal space. Over the next 5 minutes, I remain at the bottom of the crater, as if practicing target shooting. The battle is over. After leaving the crater, I examine each body. Luck is on my side. The 7 dogs have left a total of 3 cores. My experience bar in the system has risen to 45%. I insert the cores into my space and head to the security booth, which is empty, only showing disorganized footprints and a line marked on the wall with nails. Ethan, you'll pay for this, I think sarcastically. He's a survivor, right? I don't worry about what these 2 insignificant pawns can do. In this post-apocalyptic world, living is often more painful than dying. Since they already found refuge in the official shelter, let them enjoy their rewards there. That's the true madness of living. I turn around and vanish into the snowstorm, leaving my silhouette among the gusts. This mission confirms one thing for me. In a world where all rules have collapsed, what matters is to be relentless and strong. This place is my playground, and my next target is the Central Hospital downtown. Not only do zombies await there, but also the antiviral cure I desperately need. Although it cannot cure the zombie virus, it treats the common flu and infections that become critical in the early stages. At the Eastern District Sports Center, the place had become a temporary refuge. Thousands of survivors gathered at the entrance, amid shouts, curses, and pleas for help blending into total chaos. Armed soldiers maintained order with tense expressions, giving clear instructions. Do not push, form a line, temperature checks, and in case of injuries, immediate isolation. Resources were scarce. Only a small portion of porridge per person per day. Anyone wanting more had to join search and rescue teams. Chloe and Ryan mingled among the crowd, completely disheveled. Suddenly, a soldier stepped in their way, blocking their path. "Stop!" he exclaimed. They tried to move forward, but the soldier held them back. "What are you trying to sneak in for?" Desperately, she clung to that opportunity as if it were a life raft. She yelled urgently, "I'm awake. I have powers. Let me through. I need to see your commander." The soldier fell silent, cautious, as there had been many false awakens in recent days. "Show me your powers," he replied coldly. Chloe took a deep breath, striving to stand despite the exhaustion and weakness caused by hunger. Then, she reached out to a large concrete barrier on the side of the road. At that moment, a red light shone, and the wall weighing several hundred kilos disappeared in the blink of an eye, as if it had never existed. The crowd fell into absolute silence. The soldier, surprised, squinted and quickly grabbed his radio. Awakening identification was activated at the entrance, and he requested instructions. 5 minutes later, Chloe and Ryan entered a warm office. A middle-aged man, dressed in a military coat, waited behind the desk, watching them carefully. He asked her, "Is your power elimination? To what extent can you eliminate? Can you eliminate living people?" Feeling some warmth at last, Chloe replied more clearly, "I can also eliminate human beings. Just on my way here, I killed a mutant Tibetan Mastiff." The commander laughed, with an expression that seemed filled with disbelief. "Girl, you kill a dog and suddenly you think you're invincible," he murmured, rising and looking out the window, pointing at the sea of zombies spreading outside. "There are now tens of thousands of infected. Your power, which exhausts you after a few uses, is of little value in battle." Chloe's expression hardened upon hearing those words, but her tone changed when she fixed her gaze on the snow-covered runway beyond the terrain. "Your power has a more useful purpose." The commander gestured with his hand. "The snowstorm has blocked the roads, and supply trucks cannot advance. The runway is buried. We need to clear a lifeline." Their task, as he described it, was to remove snow. Chloe felt a deep humiliation. "I thought that, as a protagonist with a magic system, I was destined to become the queen of the apocalypse. But now I was being asked to simply act as a cleaner." I clenched my teeth, feeling all my potential fading away. "I am awakened. I have powers. I'm meant for something great," I thought, but reality hit me hard. "You don't want to work," the commander continued with a smile that disappeared instantly. "If you don't cooperate, you won't get any food. Even the awakened work for what they get." I tried to protest, but deep down I couldn't come up with any more excuses. Then, with a mixture of rage and despair, I decided I wouldn't obey that order. "I won't work," I shouted, facing my fate. The commander raised his hand in a farewell gesture. "Then go and dive into that storm." And without further ado, he left me there, feeling bitter humiliation and defiance, in a world where my powers seemed nothing more than an illusion amid chaos. Two soldiers standing nearby immediately stepped forward, raising their rifles slightly. I felt my legs trembling with fear and, in an instinctive act, urgently grabbed Chloe's sleeve, signaling to her with my eyes, "Chloe, don't be reckless. First, stay alive. We'll figure everything out later." Chloe fixed her gaze on those dark guns, contemplating the infernal cold outside. My pride shattered completely. "I'll do it," she whispered, grinding her teeth and lowering her head in shame. Half an hour later, Chloe was assigned to Special Clearance Unit Number 98. Her task was simple: stand in front of construction vehicles and constantly use her ability to remove snow and debris blocking the road. Her mission was to destroy sections of snow walls so the convoy could move forward. Every time she used her power, her body felt exhausted to the extreme, as if each effort drained the last drop of her energy. How much longer? The line behind them waited impatiently. The supervisor shouted through a megaphone, giving orders with impatient authority. Ryan, without any special skills, was assigned to the lowest category transport team. His job was to pick up those frozen or infected and move them to the incineration pits, where the stench was so nauseating it could leave anyone dizzy. Moreover, there was the constant risk of infection. To survive, to get that half a loaf of bread, which was actually a bit stale, Ryan had to endure everything. As night fell, both collapsed exhausted onto the communal rest platform in the gym, a crowded space with hundreds of people. The smell of sweat and feet mixed in the air, thick and sticky. Chloe looked at her swollen, pus-filled hands, tears streaming down her face. It was not what she had imagined. She thought about Ethan, about that warm home by the fire. Ethan, surely, now would be satisfied with his achievements. With strength, Chloe gripped the dirty blanket, her nails digging into her palm. At that moment, the square in front of the central hospital was filled with frozen zombies. However, these creatures were not dead. As soon as they detected the heat of a living being, they woke up instantly. To avoid detection, she activated a stealth field, consuming a small part of her energy to create an insulating thermal layer around her body. Using her hook, she headed straight for the third-floor window, where the pharmacy was located. There were fewer zombies there. After eliminating some infected nurses wandering around, she moved through the shelves. Her hand brushed past rows of medicines, which disappeared in an instant. Suddenly, louder gunfire came from below. She peered out the window and saw two modified armored vehicles driving through the hospital gates. A group of about 7 or 8 raiders, armed to the teeth, was shooting at the zombies. The vehicles bore the emblem of a black shark. The Black Shark Gang, she thought. Again, them? It seemed they had also discovered the importance of the medicines and had arrived secretly to loot. Coincidence? Her face grew cold, and she silently devised a strategy. She was in no rush to leave. Instead, she settled comfortably by the window and watched as the gang members quickly cleared a path and headed straight for the elevator shafts in the lobby. The gunfire was so intense that it was impossible to hear clearly, not only the zombies in the square but also the chaos prevailing throughout the hospital. Even zombies from several blocks around gathered here, just like the Black Shark Gang, which burst into the lobby. Suddenly, the ground exploded into fragments. From below, a colossal zombie, over 3 meters tall, with tense, shining muscles, emerged. It was a second-level mutant, a Titan type. My pupils contracted slightly. Another second-level mutant. What the hell is that thing? What kind of monster is this? The members of the Black Shark Gang, stunned, opened fire with several machine guns simultaneously. The bullets hit the Titan but only caused splashes. Small spots of blood seeped from the monster. It roared furiously and, effortlessly, grabbed a nearby abandoned stretcher and threw it like a frisbee. Quickly, 2 gang members were pulverized by its brutal strength. The The scene turned chaotic in an instant. The synchronization was perfect. My eyes lit up with excitement. That's a second-level energy core from a Titan. It means I can level up directly and probably unlock a new skill. I wait patiently for the band to wear out the Titan's stamina. 5 minutes later, the lobby falls silent, with all 7 members of the band dead. The badly wounded Titan struggles to breathe, hunched over on the ground while devouring corpses to recover. This is my chance. Like a hawk, I leap from the 3rd floor. In midair, I take a bundle of dynamite from my personal space and light the fuse. This is a gift for you. The Titan opens its mouth, instinctively thinking it's food, and bites. I tumble to land, hiding behind a support. A violent explosion shakes the entire building. When the smoke cloud disperses, everything above the Titan's neck has disappeared, leaving only a massive body without a head. I approach and rummage through the torn flesh remains. Finally, I find a nucleus about the size of a walnut. Level 2 energy core obtained. A source of high-purity energy is detected. I must absorb it and improve instantly. Yes, the core in my hand transforms into a warm current that flows through my palm. I feel every bone creak and a wave of power surging through my body. The system update has been successful. My current level is 2. A new function is unlocked. The spatial rift music of the sword. It consumes mental energy to create a 1-meter spatial rift in reality. It ignores physical defenses, penetrates any object, and bypasses resistance. With a thought, I make a line as black as ink materialize on my fingers. I gently trace it over the heavy armor of a nearby armored vehicle. Like slicing tofu, the tough steel plate opens in a smooth line. I happily deactivate this skill and look at the 2 still-moving armored vehicles, loaded with supplies that Black Shark's band has collected over the past days. Thank you, gentlemen. I salute the corpses on the ground with my hand and absorb everything, vehicles and cargo, into my space. This visit to the hospital has not only given me medicine and a level up, but also an unexpected gain. Day 15 of the apocalypse. Shelter number 7. The air here hardly circulates, filled with a sour, moldy smell, a symbol of despair. The old gymnasium that once housed 50,000 people now holds fewer than 25,000. Order has collapsed. With the generators finally dying, the last remnant of civilization fades away. In the darkness, people cease to be human and become hungry beasts, unable to think of anything but survival. Food has completely run out. The warehouse is opened. The officers hoard everything, while we can only gnaw and bark in desperation. Without warning, a rebellion erupts. Thousands of hungry survivors struggle to breach the guards' defenses and surge like an unstoppable tide toward the central administrative zone. Gunfire and the ripping screams of torn flesh merge into a hellish chaos. Chloe crouches in a corner of the stands, clutching a long, dull shovel covered in frost. Last week, she was a living agony, her once delicate hands now covered in frostbite burns and blisters. Run, Chloe. It's over now, she desperately thinks. Ryan rushes toward her, his face covered in blood. They tell him that the zombie horde outside has managed to break the defenses. Everything indicates that at any moment this place will become a deadly trap. Run where to? The blizzard rages outside, with temperatures below 60 degrees below zero, making venturing out almost suicidal. End of the line, Chloe, looking at the howling storm with no options and no strength to go out. She thinks of her brother and the hope of reaching the outskirts of the West, where perhaps refuge still remains. Ryan grabs her shoulders and shakes her desperately. Before, only the 2 of them managed something, but now, what if they manage to bring these thousands with them? Ryan's voice becomes almost demonic as he whispers a dangerous idea. He still has several armored vehicles and heavy weapons at his disposal. If he tells the commander that on the outskirts of the West there is a fortress filled with supplies, heating, and light, what will they do? Chloe's eyes shift from despair to rage, finally settling into a manic resolve. You're right. Why should I suffer alone? If you don't open the door to save me, if I die, we all die together. Inside the core office, the commander, soaked in sweat, orders the destruction of documents while preparing for evacuation. Chloe bursts in, weapons pointed at her, shouting loudly despite the tension. I know where the supplies are. Thousands of tons, generators, and a fully secured fortress. The commander quickly turns to her, eyes fixed. What did you say? I'm not lying. It's my brother's place, a storage system he prepared before the apocalypse, emptying out all the city's refrigerated warehouses. It's in the abandoned industrial zone on the outskirts of the West. If we can get there, we all can survive. Hope lights up the commander's eyes, fueled by greed and desperation. News spreads rapidly through the shelter. There is a granary on the outskirts of the West, accumulated by a wealthy, selfish person who stored tens of thousands of tons of food. We have to kill him and take everything. Within half an hour, a convoy of 5 armored vehicles leads the march, followed by more than a dozen modified trucks. And behind them, thousands of survivors. With the storm pounding them, they move toward the winter chaos. Chloe sits in the cockpit of the main vehicle, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Brother, this time I have brought an army to visit you. Let's see if you still refuse to open the door. At the end of the convoy, a horde of zombies attracted by the scent of living humans quietly follows behind. The alarms of the steel fortress do not sound. Instead, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony echoes vibrantly. Dressed in a black tactical coat, I stand in front of the armored window on the second floor, a glass of red wine in hand. From there, I watch the winding column moving through the snow in the distance. Finally, upon noticing the cluster of densely packed red dots on the surveillance screens, I smile slightly. An alert appears on the system interface, warning of large-scale approaching hostile targets. How flattering. I take a small sip of wine, not concerned in the slightest. In fact, I am filled with excitement. The days spent at home had been boring, too much idle time that could dull the mind. Besides honing skills and reviewing old movies, challenging danger in its most extreme forms is the greatest thrill of the apocalypse. The column stops about 500 meters from the industrial zone. The commander's voice resonates through a megaphone, energetic and authoritative. Listen carefully. We are the official search and rescue team from shelter number 7. We legally require your supplies and shelter. Unarmed, open the door immediately. I scoff into my microphone. Bandits? I ask, with evident sarcasm in my voice. The commander's face darkens, clearly surprised by my stubbornness. Whoever denies mercy receives none, she responds harshly. Chloe, who hears the authoritative tone, is sent forward. She climbs into the armored vehicle with a megaphone and steps ahead. Ethan, you are surrounded. Look at these people. They are on the brink of starvation, and you're hoarding all the supplies. Doesn't that bother your conscience? Open the door now, and maybe everyone will remember what generosity is. If not, when we go in, you'll end up shattered. I reject that last threat with a nod and gently press my finger on a red button on the control panel. Aunt Chloe, you're still so naive. I say, do you think I can threaten these people outside? You're just gaining experience points. I press the button, activating system sequence 2. Minefield, I announce softly. Suddenly, the ground beneath the rails in front of me collapses in an instant, causing hundreds of hidden mines in the snow to reverberate in consecutive explosions. The snow layer turns crimson in an instant, and over 100 people vanish in a cloud of steam and shrapnel. Retreat! I shout. Go back. Panic takes over the group, causing them to flee in a stampede. But those in the back don't stop, advancing amidst the chaos. In a matter of seconds, the scene turns into a real collapse, a mass of people pushing and shouting amid the confusion. Just at that moment, a deafening roar rises from the snow-covered slopes surrounding them, filling the air with harrowing and threatening sounds. Hundreds of zombies, attracted by the explosions and blood, finally show their fangs. Driven by a bloodthirsty hunger, they charge in a pack toward the rear of the crowd, like rabid dogs. Help! Zombies! They are surrounding us. Chloe, use your power to clear the minefield before it's too late. Hurry up. The commander, desperation reflected in his widened eyes, presses his weapon against Chloe's temple. She trembles, desperately trying to activate her area elimination ability, but the extent of the mines is immense. Her resistance barely lasts a few more minutes. In less than a minute, blood begins to flow from her nose, and she collapses onto the roof of the vehicle. Out of strength, the commander pushes her aside and launches himself into the armored vehicle in an attempt to escape. But how can he let her escape? Since you arrived here, I won't let her go without paying her price. I stand on the terrace and raise my right hand, making a grabbing motion toward the armored vehicle in the distance. The blade of the space crack, a visible black edge, sharp as a dagger, pierces through the air. Without making a sound, the armored vehicle, weighing several tons and with the commander inside, splits in two at waist level. A deadly silence falls over the battleground, everyone horrified by the power of that single strike. Ryan hides among the corpses, watching from above as if he were a god. The battle lasts 3 full hours, leaving nearly the entire army of over 3,000 destroyed. The corpses cover the ground, and the heat from the fresh blood melts the snow, which quickly freezes into a thick layer of red ice, turning the place into a giant amphitheater of the dead. The zombie horde has mostly been eliminated thanks to my heavy machine gun. The snowstorm stops. The pale moon hangs in the sky, illuminating that infernal scene. Only 2 living beings remain in front of the door, Chloe and Ryan. Luckily, being expelled at the start and remaining motionless among the wreckage allowed them to cling to life until now. The door slowly opens. With a tactical axe in hand, I advance steadily toward them. Chloe is kneeling on the ground, her face covered in blood. I made a mistake, I was really wrong. Forced me to come, it was the commander. You know how shy I am, right? They forced us. Because of our past, save me. I will be like your slave. Without saying a word, I stop 2 meters away, taking out a table and some chairs from my systemic space, then lighting a small red clay stove, I place a pot and add water and the hot pot base. Soon, a spicy aroma fills the air. Removing a plate with thin slices of lamb, I begin to cook calmly. I am hungry. I take a piece of meat and blow on it to cool. Chloe and Ryan's throats swell. Their eyes reflect longing, but also fear. Please, let me try a bite, Chloe pleads through tears. This scene feels so familiar to me. I put the meat in my mouth and chew slowly. In my past life, I begged you the same way. Through that door, I begged for a sip of water. Even for an expired cookie. What did you say to me then? Chloe also trembles, fearful. You said supplies are only for useful people. The useless don't even deserve to breathe the same air. I put down my chopsticks and looked at them with cold hardness in my eyes. Now I return those words to you. I stood up with determination. The tactical axe in my hand reflected the moonlight with a cold sheen. Ryan, I said his name forcefully, calling him. Ryan believed there was still hope and quickly looked up. You said you loved Chloe and would die for her, right? He hesitated, looking at Chloe beside him. If you kill her, I will capture you. My voice was seductive, full of temptation. I would even offer you a serum upgrade so you can wake up too. Suddenly, a dagger landed in front of Ryan, the ultimate test of humanity. No. Chloe looked at him fearfully, stepping back in fear. You won't do it. We are in love. Ryan examined the dagger, then the illuminated fortress behind Ethan, and finally the woman who seemed contemptible and worthless in front of him. At that moment, every mask called love was completely shattered. Ryan, impulsively, snatched the dagger and lunged at Chloe with a twisted expression. Listen, Chloe. If I die, you will live. You are no longer useful. What's wrong with dying for me? Chloe shouted desperately. The instinct to survive awakened all her remaining strength. The dagger disappeared from Ryan's hands, but he was already on top of Chloe, with both hands squeezing her neck. Die! Die! Stop blocking my way! They swore and fought in a pool of blood, like 2 beasts devouring each other, with a repulsive and grotesque ugliness. I watched that scene with cold indifference, as if it were a monstrous comedy, until both collapsed exhausted, breathing heavily. Chloe's face was disfigured by bites, and Ryan had lost an eye. Magnificent. I slowly clapped as the music echoed. But I lied. I approached and raised my axe. In my shelter, residues never accept trash. Amid their desperate screams, the axe rose and struck down with force, splattering blood onto the white snow like a plum blossom. Finally, the quarrels of this life came to an end. Without hesitation, I turned around and raised my hand. The corpses on the ground and the remains of the armored vehicle in the distance automatically moved toward the debris disposal system. The entrance was completely clean once again. Inside, I approached the large window that reached the ceiling and watched the snowstorm still raging outside. The world had died, but I was still alive and intended to live well. I took a bottle of aged whiskey from the cabinet and poured 2 glasses. One I poured onto the floor as an offering to my past self, naive and foolish. The other I raised toward the sky, to toast this cruel yet magnificent world. Hello, Apocalypse. I am Ethan, king of this domain.